It's summertime! So let's take a look at the #1 summer movies of all time. Starting with last year's Barbie, the year before that, Top Gun 2, and we'll keep rolling back through all of them until we get to the OG of all summer blockbusters, Jaws. We're gonna need a bigger boat. All of that and more as we take a look! Yeah, take a look, summer edition. Just talking about the #1 summer movies of all time. There was a time there was no such thing as a summer box office season, a holiday box office season, until it all changed. And it changed with a movie that's near and dear to my heart. I can't wait to talk about it with comedian Steph Sanders.
Hey, what's up, man?
All right, he's got to catch a flight. You're playing the Greece Comedy Festival?
Yes.
And
Greece, I'm doing a gig in Greece and I'm going to Italy.
do you have to change up the humor in Greece, or does the stuff land the same as Greece?
I hope not. I don't know.
Hey, speaking of Greece, the #1 summer movie of 1978 was Grease.
I loved it too.
Totally different Grease. Did you really love it?
I know. Yes, I love those songs.
What's your favorite summer movie of all time?
Gotta be Independence Day, hands down.
We're not talking about that one. And we're not talking about Harry Potter's. Look, there's only so much show. We can't get to them all. But right now, let's talk about what changed it. There was no summer box office season until one movie came out, made box office dollars bigger than even studio projected would ever happen. And that movie was Jaws. Ooh. What does Jaws mean to you?
Jaws means not only to me, but my people. That was the year black people stopped swimming.
That's not true.
There were no more beach.
Is that
we didn't
true?
go to the beach anymore. I feel like there were going to be a lot more like black swimmers, like a little Michael Phelps. And that was the year it all stopped.
Jaws changed the game.
It changed the game for black folks.
Oh my
45 years
goodness
later, we're
gracious.
still not swimming. We got 3, but that's about it.
I was about to launch into how much it changed things culturally for film, but it changed things culturally in a multitude of ways. All right, let's talk about my favorite scene from that movie. It's probably the most quoted line. We're going to need a bigger boat. That comes from this.
Slow ahead. I can go slow ahead. Come on down and chum some of this. You're gonna need a bigger boat.
There it is. That's it. We're going to need a bigger boat. Started right there.
That still gives me chills. Even though I know it's fake, that still gives me chills.
Oh, I'm
really.
saying. And when you talk about horror movies, pop-out scares in horror movies, the father of the pop-out scare is in Jaws when they're under the boat and the head falls out of the boat and Richard Dreyfuss is underwater and almost loses it.
That's okay. I'm not going to watch that anytime soon anymore, but thank you, Mark, for making...
Thanks for schooling me. I had no idea how much it changed the world in other ways. All right, so let's talk about Barbie, also a game changer culturally last summer. That is your most recent box office hit. Last summer, it was the #1 movie. Prior to it coming out, did you have any idea it was going to be a cultural juggernaut?
I did not. First of all, I knew it was going to be, like, big, but I also actually didn't know 2 things, that it was actually going to be good, and it's actually going to be the juggernaut that it is.
I had fun catching up with Greta Gerwig. I've known her for a long time, and congrats to her success on this. We talked.
Did you, in your wildest dreams, think Barbie would become all of this?
No, I never, but I hoped it would be. I always believed in it and I always hoped it would connect, but you never think it's going to be at this level. This is sort of beyond any dream you could have.
I asked you one time, not specifically about toys, but I said, what did 6-year-old Greta Gerwig want to do? And you said, I wanted to be a nun because of the way they dressed. Now, isn't it interesting that kid grew up to direct this movie?
It's true, I did. Well, I also wanted to be a nun because they had a musical, The Sound of Music, and I thought, I would enjoy being a nun in The Sound of Music. But no, I think it's funny because I never could imagine that I would be a director, but I also what I do now feels probably the closest to being a kid that I've ever been. It's like I get to kind of create these imaginary worlds and live inside them, and that feels like basically what it was like when I was playing make-believe on the playground at Phoebe Hearst.
There you go. Greta Gerwig talking about where it all started for her. She wanted to be a nun.
I'm glad she didn't do that.
Yeah, exactly. Ryan
That's
Gosling,
more
by
fun.
the way, star of that movie, the #1 movie last summer, was supposed to be the star of the #1 movie this summer. Everybody predicted Fall Guy, but Fall Guy kind of fell. It's not having the legs they thought it was going to have.
Yeah, not as big as they thought. Yeah.
All right, so we're not going to go chronologically forward or backward, but while we're talking about Barbie, we might as well jump 1 year before that. Top Gun Maverick, not only the #1 summer movie, Top Gun Maverick, that's Top Gun 2 technically, but it also saved the box office season. I caught up with Tom Cruise to talk about that. Take a look. Tom Cruise, what are you doing here?
Yeah, we're at the Smithsonian, man. We're here for mission.
Yeah, no kidding. You know, and as I look around, look, there's the lunar lander over there, the Spirit of St. Louis up there.
I know.
What is it about that spirit of adventure that you have in common with those guys?
Incredible. You know, I love aviation since my whole life. Since I was a little kid, I'm a pilot. And, you know, I just don't know. I mean, it's just who I am. I was always climbing trees to the top of them in the windy days, and you know, couldn't wait to skydive and learn how to fly and drive and ride motorcycles.
Speaking of the skydiving, some of the most remarkable cinema I've ever seen in this movie.
Thank you.
And that's you. When we see you running and jumping, you may be breaking legs, but you're not putting your life at risk because there's usually a cable. When you're skydiving, it's all on you.
Yeah. And even with the cables, I mean, some of that stuff is very intense, and definitely the skydiving also. It was exciting. It was exhilarating.
But we're like tight on your face, and you're not doing it to tell the press that you did your own stunt. You're doing it to make a better movie. But how do you act when you know your life is at stake?
You know, that's the trick also. It's interesting because when you're doing it, whether I'm driving a motorcycle or a car or flying a helicopter, you know, a lot of times I'm having to set the frame myself if I'm coming up to a camera, and it is acting. It's just, you got to just be in the moment, be in performance, but also have enough control of the vehicle or my body to be able to do both.
I chased you around Sevilla, Spain with
that was
Cameron
fun. That
Diaz
was
for
really
like
fun.
8 hours. That was fun
that
for
was
you.
a great day.
This is what I want to say.
That was
For
a great
8
day.
hours.
That was a really fun day.
Anybody else would say that it's grueling, but you came out of it at the end of an
That was
8-hour
so
day
much
saying
fun.
it was joyous.
Yeah, we had a great time. Yeah, that was a great time, wasn't it?
And that's what goes into making great movies. Keep it up,
Thank
pal.
you so
Hey,
much.
wait, hey,
Thank
did
you.
you guys say hi to Tom Cruise?
I was like that. Anytime I see a star that like they wish he would come over to them, I almost make them go over to the people
love that.
hanging out over there. Anyway,
Well,
Tom
why are
Cruise.
you talking to him about Mission Impossible? We talking about
All right, I cheated a little bit. That's the closest sound I had. I hadn't talked to him about the new Top Gun movie. But by the way, we could go way back in the archives to 1986. He was the star of the #1 movie in 1986, and that, of course, would have been the original Top Gun.
The dopest movie, one of the dopest movies ever, man.
So Maverick, you got Goose. What would your flight name be?
Soul Food.
So
Soul Food would definitely be my.
Oh, mine would be cream cheese. All right, coming up in just a moment, let's talk about Star Wars. Star Wars has the record for the most summer movies to hit #1, starting with A New Hope in '77. We'll talk about that with Mark Hamill next. Hey, welcome back to Take a Look. My name is Marcus Allen. I almost forgot my own name. I'm Marcus Allen. That's comedian Steph Sanders headlining the International Comedy Festival in Greece next month. So if you're in Greece, go ahead and check it out. And my quick way to tie it into this show where we talk about summer movies, Grease was the #1 summer movie of 1978. Totally different Grease. All right, the #1 movie to have the most successes during the summer box office series is
Star Wars.
Star Wars. We're talking
Definitely.
about Star Wars. I hate to date myself, but I'm ancient. I was a 12-year-old lad watching A New Hope for the first time, and it changed my life. I saw it over 200 times the first summer alone that it opened in movie theaters. How about you?
Wow. I don't remember way back then, but I do remember seeing it maybe 10 times.
You trying to act like you weren't born when Star Wars came out?
Well, I was born when it came out, but I wasn't into it then.
No, anyway, I sat down with Mark Hamill to geek out about that and so much more. Take a look.
Is this a fulfilled life coming back to this after all these years?
Well, it was a total shock, I thought. You know, I mean, even if they did 7 and 8, they'd all have all new characters. And then George told me that he was getting tired of it and he didn't want to be doing these films in the 70s. So he told me flat out, well, I'm not doing 7, 8, and 9. Then when he asked to meet with us, we knew something was up. And I said to Mary, my wife said, what if he wants to do new trilogies? And I just laughed. I said, honey, he specifically said, no, he's not going to do that. And he was right. He's not going to do that, but we didn't know he was going to tell us that he was turning it over to Kathy Kennedy and that she would be doing that. He said, if you don't want to come back, we won't kill your character off. no, we won't recast your character. We'll just write you out. So I was so intimidated. I knew I had to do it, but I thought, ooh, you know, we had a perfect beginning, a middle, and end. Yeah. Fans can be really hypercritical.
Let's not screw it up.
Yeah. So it was intimidating, to say the least. Because when we did the originals, nobody cared. You know, it's just a goofy space movie. The first one cost $9 million, all right? Yeah. All the President's Men cost more than that came out the same year. Because they had big stars, they had to pay for the property, they had a star director. George called Star Wars the most expensive low-budget movie ever made.
Yes, the most expensive low-budget movie ever made that has made billions of dollars spanning across centuries now. The number one movie of 1977, the number one movie of 1980, hang on a second.
You're kidding. That better be a golf scorecard. What is that?
I had to write down some notes. The number one movie of 1983, again, when it bounced back. And what's your favorite thing about the bounce back in 1999?
Samuel Jackson.
Hey, exactly. You got Sam Jackson coming to the fold in 1999. And again, in 2005, it was the number one movie. Speaking of Sam Jackson, can you imagine how geeked out he was to be called up?
You know what? I could see Samuel Jackson in every blockbuster. Maybe there's a Grease 3 with Samuel Jackson.
He does have some box office history in the summer specifically, but we talk Star Wars. Look.
People don't realize this going into it. They should, that you're on the level with Yoda. You're pretty much
we're
matched with him.
Yeah, pretty much equals in a sort of way. But I actually still refer to him as master sometimes. But we do have a different relationship than the majority of people on the Jedi Council or the other Jedi. We talk personally and try and solve problems among ourselves.
Is that cool to be sitting there talking about Jedi and using the word we? We as Jedi? That's pretty cool.
Well, of course. I mean, whoever thought? You know, the fact that I was sitting there watching the first one when it opened the first day and had no idea that I would ever be in this particular place, you know, is a very cool thing, you know, to go from there and wishing and sitting there saying to yourself, boy, this looks very cool to be in. I really would like to do something like this, to end up sitting here talking about one.
That's so awesome. You know what's wild there is that my footage of Sam Jackson almost looks more ancient than the footage of Star Wars.
Yeah.
All right, you know, he talked about how lucky he was to be in George Lucas' Star Wars. George Lucas should feel lucky to have him in his movie, because who is the highest box office dollar draw of any summer movie star?
Samuel Jackson.
Exactly. Back to my cheat sheets, because if you think about Avengers, and for that matter, all the Marvel movies that he's been in that opened in the summer, Summer of 12, Sam Jackson. Summer of 13,
Sam Jackson.
Summer of 16.
Sam Jackson.
18.
Sam Jackson.
And back with the Avengers for the final one in 19, Sam Jackson. All right. I'm so exhausted after that. So many movies. Darla, where are we going next? All right, Pirates of the Caribbean. Not just one Pirates of the Caribbean, but Johnny Depp knocked it out of the park a few times himself. Coming up in a moment, we will go deep into our summer movie special, Talkin' Pirates, when we take a look. Next. Hey, welcome back. It is Take a Look. We're talking about the number one summer movies. Not movies about summer, not this summer's summer movies, because thank you, SAG-AFTRA strike. That thing screwed everything up. We're just talking about the biggest summer movies of all time.
Biggest. I love it. It's my favorite time of the year. I love it.
I love, you know, I hate to sound ancient. When I bring this up, I start sounding like the people going, I remember going to the Nickelodeon and sitting on Nickelodeon. But I do remember when we used to line up for days to see the number one summer movie.
Yeah, I remember my parents did, but I do remember. Yeah.
Because you're young and I'm old. We get it, Steph. We get it. I want to harken back to the '06 when Pirates of the Caribbean was the number one movie at the box office. This came out of nowhere. Everyone thought it was going to be big, but not this big. Keep in mind, the first Haunted Mansion before it hadn't done that well as a theme park adaptation. Pirates fixed all of that.
Killed it. Killed it. Johnny Depp. And who doesn't love Johnny Depp? I mean.
Had a chance to catch up with him. He is jazz cool now. He was jazz cool then. Take a look.
There were many scenes where CG is going to take care of a lot of the action. Just as many where CG had nothing to do with it. The big wheel, the bone cages. Talk about this.
Oh man, the big wheel was like, you know, it was truly one of those moments where you arrive on set and they say, you know, they tell you what you're going to be doing, and your first reaction is, you've got to be kidding me. I mean, you've just got to be kidding me.
Right.
Because you know, I mean, I've done some very strange things on film, you know, over the years, but you know, when they say, okay, we're gonna bind your feet and strap you into this wheel, and then they're gonna roll you down this kind of bumpy road for the next few days while you're sword fighting.
Sure.
Yeah, it's a hard thing to get a hold of.
Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow, the #1 summer movie for the year 06, came back with a sequel the next year, 07, also the #1 movie. What are you laughing
One
at?
of the coolest guys ever. And I bet he didn't know he was going to be interviewed by Rod Stewart's nephew. Because you look like...
Are you talking about my hair?
Yes.
My hair.
Oh, my
I look
goodness.
like if there was a bad Operate musical about the Fall Guy, that's
That
what
would be
the
it,
hair would
yeah.
look like. You know who knew me when I had that hair? A guy who went on to become one of the board of directors of the Critics' Choice Association, the most influential board of critic members in North America. Sean Edwards joins us
Coolest
now.
guy in the world.
Hey, what up, Sean?
What's going on, guys? How you doing? Yes, it's summertime, and I love it.
Yeah, let's talk about this. We started the show talking about Jaws, which launched the whole summer box office phenomenon in 1977. Jump forward, 10 years later, Beverly Hills Cop 2, your favorite movie for the summer.
Yeah, man, I love Beverly Hills Cop 2 because I was a big fan of Beverly Hills Cop because I was a huge fan of Eddie Murphy. You know, he captured our attention way back when he was a teenager on SNL, and he exploded and became a huge movie star with his first film, 48 Hours. And from there, anything he did, I was right there front and center at the movie theater, several times. Like, you would see his movies multiple times, not once, not twice, not 3 times, not 4. And Beverly Hills Cop 2 just exploded in the summer of 1987. I mean, it's hard to imagine an R-rated movie making that much money, but that's what it did.
Yeah. Even now, Sean, like, looking at Eddie Murphy in movies back then, now his comedic timing is timeless. And like you said, I could watch it all now and still laugh at the same parts, just like I watched it then.
No, that's the genius of Eddie Murphy is like, you know, his funny is timeless. Like, you laugh back then, you laugh 20 years ago, you laugh 10 years ago, and you'll laugh right now. Because, I mean, that's how brilliant the guy was. And the whole concept of Beverly Hills Cop was like, you would think it was actually tailor-made for him, but it wasn't. I mean, there were several other actors they wanted to star in that film, including Sylvester Stallone, but it was Eddie Murphy's take that kind of took that film over the top. It would not have been a success with anyone else other than Eddie Murphy.
I know, and if you think about it, we talk about Johnny Depp's Jack Sparrow. Axel wouldn't be Axel with Eddie Murphy, and in fact, you and I are about to sit down and watch the new movie, Beverly Hills Cop, Axel.
Yeah, exactly, which is technically Beverly Hills Cop 4. I mean, that's, you know, great storytelling combined with a great talent. It leads to these type of franchises where, you know, you can do them in any decade, you can do them in any era, and people are still going to run out and go see it. And that's what happened when you had this marriage of Eddie Murphy and this Beverly Hills Cop story. I mean, people just love it, and they'll go watch it anytime. But it all falls on the back of Eddie Murphy's genius because, you know, with each movie, he also had huge input with the script. Of course, his charisma and comedic timing. I mean, you know, say less. You already know what that is. And that's what led to him being a huge megastar. And that's what led to this franchise being beloved for all these years. I mean, you can't deny it. I mean, it's what Hollywood's all about. And when you think comedy, you think Eddie Murphy. You don't think about anyone else.
Definitely. Yeah, speaking of beloved for all these years, same could be said of Sean Edwards, ladies and gentlemen.
Every time you come on set, Sean, I'm less cool. Every time.
No, man. No, please. Anytime you get me talking about Eddie Murphy, I'm right there. And he's like one of the coolest people on the planet. I actually had the privilege and honor of producing a show in which we gave him a Lifetime Achievement Award. And it's one of the most memorable moments of my life.
Yeah, beautiful moment and well-deserved, both of you. And you can see that. Follow him on Instagram to see that exact moment. Sean Edwards, KC. Sean, thank you very much.
My guy.
All right, coming up in a moment, let's talk about Shrek, another #1 movie at the box office starring
Eddie Murphy.
Eddie Murphy. I'll sit down with Eddie Murphy to talk about that, and we're just talking about a sequel. We'll continue to talk about sequels next. Hey, welcome back. It is Take a Look. Thanks for hanging out. I'm Marcus Allen. It's world-famous comedian Steph Sanders opening the International Comedy Festival in Greece in like a few days.
Yes.
Talk about summer. Not a bad summer gig.
Not a bad summer gig, yeah. Greece and in Mexico City, so.
I can't keep up with you. Well, be watching movies when you're over there. I want to find out what's hitting in Greece and Mexico City. In the meantime, biggest summer movie of '01 was Shrek. We were just talking about Eddie Murphy and Beverly Hills Cop, the #1 movie of '87. Now we're talking Shrek. Did you love it?
I loved it. I mean, who didn't? This is iconic. Shrek, come on.
I was talking about with Josue saying every time I hear it, that's a nice boulder. I laugh every time, decades later. I talked to Eddie about that and its sequels. Take a look.
So did you know pretty early on with Shrek 1 you'd come back for 2? Or was it after Jeffrey Katzenberg said, does $10 million sound pretty good to you?
No, that all happened way down the line from Shrek 1. Shrek 1, when you're doing it, you don't know. You don't know what those, so many cartoons come out, you don't know which one the audience is it's gonna connect with an audience. I really, after the movie came out and I saw it, actually before it came out, when I saw the movie, I was like, hey, this is really, I didn't know it was gonna be like, this is really cool. Then when it came out and it had the effect on people that it had, it was like, oh, wow. And the sequel was a no-brainer. Right. If I do a movie that's really, good, I'll do a sequel to it. I'm Eddie's sequel.
Of course. Then it pays off pretty good for it.
I'll do a sequel to a movie.
Why don't you guys go ahead? I'll park the car.
Love that movie. Strong now. I'd forgotten how funny every moment of it still is.
Every moment. I love Shrek. All the Shreks. Pluto Nash, not so much, but Shrek, yeah.
What's it like you? I remember when you were playing Laugh Factory, looking out and seeing Eddie Murphy in the third row looking back at you doing your
The most nervous I've ever been on stage. I never get nervous on stage, even when I first started, but I saw Eddie Murphy as I'm going on the last step, and I'm like, what in the... I wanted to do new material. I wanted to do other stuff, but he said I was funny.
You are funny. Keep crushing it all summer. Steph Sanders, follow him on all social media. I am Steph Sanders. I'm at TV Marquez Allen. Thanks for taking a look. And take a look. We'll see you next time.